So this morning, I went to the courthouse and I had an appointment. So right before the appointment, I used the restroom. There's nothing strange about it. I went out, I had my appointment, everything went well, and I decided to use the restroom before I left again. And in the time it took for me to go through my appointment, which was roughly about 15 minutes after the first time, I used the bathroom a lot. 15 minutes after I had used the restroom the first time, I used it again, and someone had left a sticker on the mirror of the Zodiac Killer and the Zodiac Killer insignia. Now that I found really strange because it happened in the time I took my appointment, and it really bugged me. Now, there's a lot I could say about this. I could go into great details about this man and how I know this man, and I'm going to touch it very briefly. I could also get into the reasons as to how I believe he commits all these crimes and gets away with it, but I'm just going to very briefly touch on most of these topics. All of these topics could be their own 30-minute video. So I went to Skyline Elementary in Oregon, in Portland, Oregon. It's a small school in the countryside on the border of a forest that was known for a huge disappearance back in 2009. Now, I started going there when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I started playing baseball with a kid who then went to transfer into my school, Skyline. When I was roughly 8 years old, I went to my friend's house. He invited me over, and one day his dad showed me on his body a stick and poke tattoo, like you do, like junkies do in prison, a stick and poke tattoo of the crosshair insignia that the Zodiac Killer uses. Now, I had no idea what that was at the time. It didn't worry me. I thought it was like a Jesus cross, so I said, "Oh, that's cool. Are you a Christian?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I am too. I believe in God." And that was that. There's a whole other story I could get into regarding that event, but that's where I'm going to leave it for now. That story has a whole other revelation to it that I don't want to get into in this video. Now, I had no idea what that was at the time, and so something happened that day that I don't want to get into right now because it's very traumatizing, but I survived. Now, fast forward a couple of years. I'm at Skyline. I'm in third grade. This previous stick and poke happened around second grade. So in third grade, I'm doing my science fair presentation, and it's right before class, and all the people are going through the school looking at everybody's science fair project. Now in third grade, the Skyline students do a project on one of the bridges of Portland, because the bridges of Portland are infamous for different reasons. And so we instead of doing a standard science fair project, we have to build a bridge. Now, he came to my bridge project, the man with the stick and poke tattoo, my friend's dad, and he started complimenting my project, even though it was really lackluster and nothing impressive about it. And he said, "Hey, I have this first edition PSA 10 Perfect Gem Charizard in my truck. Do you want to come with me to see it?" I said no, because my mother specifically told me that morning before the science fair that if anyone asks me to get into their vehicle with them, unless it's my mother, say no. And she said, even if they say things, "Oh, your mother said it's okay," if I didn't tell you that myself, don't believe them. So my mother grilled that, and she indoctrinated that into me. Don't trust strangers, never get in a stranger's car. She indoctrinated that into me as a child. So when he asked me to come to his truck at the Skyline Science Fair, I said no. 2 years later, I go to my friend's house again. I don't know why I'm still friends with him. My mom felt bad for their family because they got picked on a lot because my friend was autistic and she wanted him to have more friends. So due to my mother's pity, I had to go to this really dangerous house all the time. Now, 2 years later, after the science fair, I'm a little bit older, and the dad threatens me. He tells me, "You'll disappear in a forest and no one will ever see you again." And he says it in a joking manner, but he has this dissociated look on his face that looked like the devil possessed him for a moment when he said it to me. And it really struck fear into my heart. Nothing nothing happened. A few years after that, I believe it was like 3 years later, in 2009, at the Skyline Science Fair. I'm no longer a student. I'm in high school at this time. At the Skyline Science Fair, a kid by the name of Kyron Horman disappears in the forests of the school and is never seen again. I find that really suspicious because a similar man who asked me to come to his truck at the science fair and also threatened that I would disappear in a forest and never be seen again was at that science fair. He was the only person out of 150 suspects that refused questioning the following day from the FBI when they were trying to piece together a story about what was going on. He was the only one that pled the Fifth Amendment. And while I know this can't be used against him, everybody that goes to this school finds that really suspicious. If you talk to people that have been to the school and know this man, most of them will tell you without a doubt they believe it was him. It's like he looks like your stereotypical man you wouldn't trust to be around children. If you could profile a man, that's how you'd profile him. So I reported all of this to the courthouse that I visited today. So when that sticker shows up, I'm immediately feeling like I've been marked for death because I solved the Zodiac Cipher's Z13, which we'll get to in a minute. But so I reported this to the courthouse, and I've also reported this to the FBI to no avail. And the reason I believe, and this is why when you put your tinfoil hats on for a minute, the reason I believe none of my reports about this get investigated is because this man, I know for a fact, was family friends with the former mayor of Portland. Now, that's really key in creating a government conspiracy cover-up, is to know someone that's high up in the local governance. And I know that he was friends with the local mayor's family because so was I. I went to school with the mayor's grandson, and, I would go over to the man with the stick and poke tattoos house and play with my friend and the mayor's grandson all the time. This was like a weekly occurrence that this would happen. So I find this connection between the mayor's grandson and the close family connection between the man with the stick and poke tattoo very, very suspicious. I'm going to say that I believe strings were pulled where the man with the stick and poke tattoo pulled strings to make someone else the topic of investigation instead of him. Now, when he refused to be questioned by the FBI, his alibi was that he was cooking brats for a piano recital, which we can get into a little bit later. Now, none of this really matters much to me until 2020, when I'm just by chance investigating the Zodiac Killer, someone I know nothing about. And I see in 2020, I see an interview where the Zodiac Killer calls in and says that he gets headaches or something like that. It's a phone call with the Zodiac Killer, which some people have said wasn't actually him. However, this voice of the man on the call is my friend's dad. 100%. It's the same voice. I've heard that voice my whole life. I could recognize it in a crowd. That was him. So I'm like, holy shit. That is the dude that I spent my childhood playing board games with, who threatened me numerous times, and I always believed kidnapped Kyron. So around that time, I'm posting to Snapchat our stories daily, and so is he. And one day he posted a picture on the Snapchat My Stories map of a flamethrower, which is a whole nother story I could get into that would take like 30 minutes to talk about, and I might do that one day, with the words fire giant written on the flamethrower. Now, there was a cipher cracked recently by the Zodiac Killer that says, "I don't fear the gas chamber." And if you know anything about flamethrowers have gas chambers. And so that is the gas chamber he's referencing in that Zodiac cipher, where he says, "I don't fear the gas chamber." He's not afraid of his flamethrower's massive tank of gas. That's what it means. Now, the Z13 cipher says, "My name is Ron Zodiac Killer insignia, Merva. And I know that because I've known this man my whole life. This isn't up for a debate. I'm not here to discuss this with anyone about who they think really is. I know for a fact this man is responsible for the kidnapping of Kyron Horman, and I know for a fact he has a flamethrower, and I know for a fact that this man has tried to kill me numerous times before. And I believe that it was no coincidence that a picture of his insignia showed up on the mirror today at the courthouse, and I feel like I have been marked for death.